How do you remember the past? Now let me just qualify that statement a little bit. I'm out here this morning walking in the countryside. It's a lovely day, it's slightly misty, but it looks like the sun is trying to get through. By this afternoon, this walk will be but a memory that I will be able to pull up. Because it's a recent memory, I will be able to pull it up and it will be in stark relief. It will be sharp. I will remember it well. I will remember the temperature. I will remember the sharpness of the images around me. I will remember the colour of the clothes I was wearing, even though I may have changed them when I got home. It's a recent memory. But what about the past? What about memories from our childhood? They may be happy, they may be sad, but I can guarantee that time will have muted them. Time, the memories, the images will now be in a slight soft focus. The colours will have been dulled and washed out by decades of just sitting there. There will be pastel shades, the sharpness, the reds will now be pinks. The greys of my trousers when I was a school kid, when I bring them up and remember them, are a mid-grey, a dull mid-grey, a pastel mid-grey, slightly fuzzy, slightly muted, slightly soft focus, slightly blurred at the edges. And this is what time does to memories. Both time and fashion will have created a disconnect between recent memories and distant memories. I mean, like I say, I draw up memories from the past, memories from the distant past, memories of when I was a child on holiday with my parents, and everything is slightly muted, pastel shades. The colours seem slightly washed out by time, as if they've still been through the washing machine process all those decades. I think we look at them in a soft focus because that's a more pleasant image rather than stark, sharp edges. Soft and muted, just like the trees are today where I am, all soft, slightly misty. And this is exactly the same as the old photographs we look at every now and again. Look at any old photograph from your past, especially if your past was a distant past, and you will notice the similarities between the images in the photograph and the images in your memory. The image itself, the subject won't have changed because that subject was captured in a moment in time and is just indelibly stamped and cannot be changed. But the whole ambience, the whole feeling will have degraded slightly in your memory, just like it degrades in a photograph. And the only way that can actually end, that will always be there in your memory, and that photograph will always be there, slowly, gradually degrading and getting more distant. And the only way that can be completely destroyed is by fire or water or shredding or dementia. My mum is selling up and moving, and just like whenever somebody moves house, you always come to begin to look through all the old photographs, don't you? And that's what we've been doing. And I've been looking at photographs of my brother and I on the beach when we were 4 years old. My friend Keith and I've mentioned Keith in a recent video, standing by the side of a cottage in our cub uniforms when we were about 7 years old in the Lake District. And the thing is, the image on that photograph, the image on that piece of paper, tangible, real in the real world, is exactly the same as the images I pull up when I think about those times. Just think about that. They are Memory. A memory is a photograph, but in some weird way, in some magical way, memories tend to degrade exactly like the manufactured image on photographic paper. It degrades, but not in a bad way. It degrades, it mutes with time. It goes slightly soft focus with time. It's almost like a photograph ages just like you'd want it to. We look back at our memories, we look back, if we're lucky and have had a great childhood, we look back on it and it is in a kind of soft focus, a pleasing, non-threatening, idealistic soft focus with fuzzy edges and slightly blurred images, but still there, still the same, still standing there, still solid. It's like the image, the people in the picture are real and there and just as they were, but the whole ambience, the whole feeling of the picture has aged. Just like an old story, when you tell tales about your youth, the tale, the story has got softer over time because we tend to remember the good times, so that's got softer, and the image in the photograph has aged just like a story. And do this, go back, find a photograph, think, if you've got a photograph and you know you've got that photograph, think about that image, think about that moment in time when we were young, when that photograph was taken, and then go and find the photograph and look at it. And I can almost guarantee that the two will be almost the same. Memories age like old photographs. And it's almost as if some magician out there has dictated and manufactured that photographs will age pleasantly. Photographs will age to bring a smile to your face. They will become pleasing images, not degrading in a decomposition way, not degrading and going rough and breaking down and looking, when you look at them, they kind of, oh, I remember that. They don't. They kind of degrade gently. They age like a fine wine, an old photograph. And this is why old photographs bring really pleasing, evocative memories. The seaside, a woodland, playing, Christmas morning, when your parents took a photograph of you, and invariably, of course, it was on film. So now we have an image that ages unlike any digital image can. A digital image will always be what it saw in the moment, which is absolutely fine, and that's great. But sometimes, when you want to be nostalgic, when you just want to think, when you want to see an image and just think, I remember that moment, I remember playing in that pool, I remember rolling in that grass, I remember standing on that beach, but the image has kind of manufactured itself and changed itself into something that is the most pleasing thing for you to look at. And that's how it is, that's how film ages. It's magical, and it only really hit me this week when I was looking at old photographs at my mum's, and she was passing them over and saying, oh, do you remember this, you and Keith? And I looked and I thought, yes, how magical is that? Because I was actually looking at the image that was in my memory. Two kids standing next to each other in cub uniforms. The colours, a kind of more idealistic colour. It may have not been that exact colour in real life at the time, but that was the colour the hue of green that my memory was ideally wanting to see, to make that memory as pleasing as possible. And that's the magical thing between photographs and the memory. They both age the same, exactly the same. So whenever somebody says your memory is like a scrapbook, like a photo album, they're actually absolutely spot on. We can actually preserve photographs now, old photographs. We can convert them into digital images. But when we do that, the aging process ends. So the only naturally aging images we will be able to see will be the ones locked away in our memories. And they will die with us. It's not all bad news though, because the memories in our heads are the originals. And everybody else can look at a copy, but only we are allowed to view the original. How privileged are we? We shall see you on the flip. Peace and love.